welcome to Spill the RT. I am here with Josh Stein and I'm Eamon Shanahan. Hi, how are you, everyone?
Hey, how you doing, Eamon? How goes it?
I'm doing good. I'm good. I am high as a kite today, Josh. I'm high as a kite.
How much pre-workout have you had?
A lot.
A lot, I can
A lot.
tell.
A
I
lot.
can tell.
Can you?
Let's see if he bounces off the walls with that box, folks. That's my
Oh,
question. Let's see
I
what
can't. I can't.
happens.
I'm kind of like a ping pong.
Leave a comment below what your guess is. How many minutes into the show before Eamon's head explodes? Let's see what
It's
happens.
already exploded. It's already exploded. It didn't even last for 3 seconds. It's kind of like it's kind of like that one time, in band camp where that first time was.
No idea what you're talking about now, but
That's
sure. We'll
okay.
just
That's
go like
okay. That's
this.
okay. That's okay.
Yes.
I was trying to refer back to American Pie and what happened there in that reference to those of you who've watched American Pie before. But yeah, okay. Anywho, we have lots on the show today, and we have a very special guest who we will reveal very soon. However, Josh, please let us all know what's coming up on today's show.
So this week, the Tate Modern is an amusement park, according to Jason Farago. Early 2025 art market evaluation, cheaper sells. Duh. A photo sold for £1 million, €1 million of a potato. That's not an asteroid, that's a potato. Anger at a large statue of a black woman in Times Square. And a mold epidemic spreading in Denmark's most notable museums. We're slamming on Denmark yet again. All that and a brand new guest are up next as we start tea. Welcome to episode 47.
47.
And as we said, we are completing the loop this week in a way I had never anticipated. If you had asked me a week ago, right, literally even a week ago, would our first episode of year 2 be connecting the dots to someone we've actually covered, I would have said there's no way. I would have bet $1 million this never would have happened. But here it is. Ready, folks? Dun, 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 dun.
So please welcome on our guest for our first episode of year 2, Mr. Stuart Semple. Hello, Stuart.
Hello. Hi, you two. How you doing?
Well,
Good. How are
we
you?
allowed to call you? You changed your name. Are we supposed to call you Anish or Stuart at this
Well,
point?
I think legally you're supposed to call me Anish, but all my friends still call me Stuart, and I kind of call myself Stuart. So I think you're all right.
We're still keeping you're kind of going down the whole trend of Joe likes it that way, aren't you? A little bit.
Well, a little bit, but
That's okay.
maybe he's copying me.
Well, this is true. This is true. This is true. You both love to be a little bit out there, don't you?
Maybe.
Challenge the norm.
Mm-hmm.
We love it. We love it. We're here for it. We're here for the antics. So, Stuart, we will talk about you and about how fabulous your work is and all about what you're up to or not in the end of the show. But before we do that, we're going to get on with the show and start talking about our first story. So, Josh, where are we heading to go first?
Off we go to London, of course, to the South Bank, to the Tate Modern. And for those that don't know, Jason Farago is a New York Times critic at large. He has lots of ideas about art. I've seen this gentleman speak several times. He's the kind of person who talks a lot, but that's what he basically does. So his take on the Tate Modern is, well, look, it kind of, when it was created in 2000, created this new idea of what a museum should be. It should be a museum as entertainment experience, right? Museum as spectacle. And basically what he kind of lays out is over the next 25 years, that's what the entire world has become. And he's kind of looking back at this as one of the key moments at which it happened. I don't know. What do you think, Stuart?
I think this is this is quite one that's quite close to home because I remember when it opened. I'm showing my age now, but when I was 20, this thing opened on the South Bank and it blew my mind. It was like, wow, art is for everyone. It was cool Britannia. It was an amazing time. There was a lot of optimism and the art was great that was coming out of the UK at the time as well, and it's like a cathedral to me, that place. Brilliant. But actually what's happened is it has become a tourist attraction. For many years, it was like the number one tourist attraction, more than the world of Shrek, more than Madame Tussauds. And the thing when you do that is you start to become something that you're not. And I'm just going to say it, I've been quite disappointed the last couple of times I've been in there. It's looking a bit shabby around the edges. It's like they're trying to be everything and nothing at the same time. It's got a bit lost, hasn't it? I think.
Well, go ahead. Amy.
No, I'm just saying that there was a particular line within that article that kind of got me and actually really triggered it. And I was just going to actually quote unquote it. It was like, it's the TikTok depth advocacy where there's migration is bittersweet, gender is a spectrum, climate change is real. and then you exit through the gift shop. And I just thought that was like, that really like encompassed what it is right now. And there's like a lot of kind of other like contemporary art spaces that are in the very big public eye, that are massively publicly funded, that have that same quality. And it's just like the Tate Modern really leads the way in that way.
Well, the problem is, right, the forces on the other side of the spectrum, right, have a unifying theme that they are working for. This kind of thing is intended to be open arms to everybody who's not that, right?
Yeah.
And by the nature of not being homogenous, heterogeneity means you're going to have many different faces for many different things. And that also kind of dissipates the energy, right? On the other hand, isn't that what the world has become around us? Like, using TikTok as the latest metaphor for it. Before that, it would have been whatever, Facebook or MySpace or, right? It's just this idea of like the spectacleization of art, that art is just another way of getting people's attention for a moment, as opposed to something you're actually supposed to spend time with, right? Like there's now these challenges. Can you spend 10 minutes with a piece of art? What do you mean spend 10 minutes? I grew up before digital. That was spending time with anything was all you had, because you had lots of time to stand around and do nothing. Right? Like just a very different world, and we don't live in that world anymore. So if institutions are supposed to be a reflection of the world in which they are either created or the world in which they are existing within, are you shocked? Is this like, isn't this just basically an indictment of the what the world has become?
Yeah, what do you think, Stuart? Stuart,
I think it's a fair point, but you know, the argument was the kids will come in, go down Carsten Holler's slide, and then on the way out, they'll think about the intricacies of a Rauschenberg. It just kind of didn't happen like that.
No.
It was just a slide.
No.
But on the other hand, anyone who's ever stood underneath like Maman or anyone others of Bourgeois's giant sculptures, right? Like, yes, it is an experience, and it's designed to be an experience, but it's an experience that like puts you into a moment of pause and silence.
Yeah.
Right? Standing under that giant statue is a different experience than just brushing past hung artworks in a gallery, right? Like it's a different kind of way of experiencing art. So I think that there's nothing necessarily intrinsically wrong with that. But the problem is art has to exist alongside capitalism. Right, it has to get funded in some kind of way.
It does, and of course it has to be funded. And I think that that's why they are so reliant on the likes of the gift shop. But it's more, you know, I think the other side of it, from my point of view, is like we as like even as an art collective, we're always, and through this podcast, we're always trying to like widen the gates so that many and more people will come and integrate with art, and will try and kind of see it for what it is. And if it is a cheap gimmick, maybe that is unfortunately the only way that we can do. And I feel like because people have such a short attention span now, that it's like you need to get them in the door so that they can like take in and take it and take over. But like I don't know, it kind of feels like it's a bit of a catch-22, because you know, even still post-pandemic they're saying that the Tate Modern numbers have even dwindled. But is that as a result of the lack of programming, the lack of, or the dwindling effects of what the curation process is, or what is that as a result of?
But what would bring them back in? A show, right?
Yeah.
A spectacular show. Like the idea here is, one way or another, spectacle is how you get those bodies, unless you kind of create a different logistics behind the scenes that fund you all together, right? Like there are different ways to do things. Unfortunately, if you're this kind of like national institution level kind of organization, funding is always going to be an issue. It just is, unless you go private, and then that opens up a whole other. Then you're only dealing with rich people. You're only dealing with what they want to see in their museum. Alternatively, put it out in the streets. Put it out in the streets, like I always say. And if it's out in the streets, it don't belong to nobody, but it belongs to everybody. And that's anyhow. Poof.
Boof, that tea is spilled, and boys, there's a lot of tea to spill in that area. But we'll move swiftly along into the next story.
Off we go.
Back
Off
to
we go
stateside.
Stateside to the early market results. Here's a big shocker. Here's a big shocker, right? Right, recession's coming. Right, everyone's hunkering down. Here's independent artists, right? Independent dealers trying to sell art. What sells? Not high price shit, but stuff that's more affordable. It's like the basic duh of the world. But how many artists are willing to cut their ego down? And how many gallerists are willing to cut their ego down, which means cutting the prices down too? That's the thing, right? If you're willing to make it up long term, if you're willing to make it up on volume, then you can have much like lower sales numbers on a per piece basis.
I'm really intrigued to hear what you have to say about this, Stuart, because we've talked about this before a few times insofar as like the art fair versus the gallery versus like the general kind of like the Sotheby kind of collection points and all of those.
Okay, so here's my take on it, and I talk to a lot of quite big collectors all the time, and basically the situation is they're very cold on these kind of like what we used to call trophy lots. It's almost not so cool to have that giant 80 million Basquiat anymore, and they feel really burnt. Like that stuff's lost so much value. And they bought a lot of that, and the new generation of stuff. They bought Hearst, they bought Richard Prince, they bought some Jeff Koons' stuff, and they're feeling very sore about it. It's a bit like the NFT bubble, but with that stuff at the very, very high end. And what's actually happening, which is really exciting, is the anything below about 100 grand is doing extremely well, better than it's done ever. And more people are bringing art into their lives. More people are making art. It's much more inclusive. There's different ways of seeing it, connecting with it. It feels much more human. And actually what we're seeing is just a shift of the power. Where it's becoming almost, I hate to say the word, but almost decentralized, where the artist is talking directly to the audience. They're on Instagram now. People are going to spend 5 or 10 grand on something beautiful for their home. If they just bought a house for the first time, it's not unfeasible that could happen. And then there are galleries and dealers who understand that, who are working with younger artists, who are placing really great work, good work about the times we live in, into great collections that isn't stupidly expensive. And it's a lot more fun for the collector. It's not high risk, and they can buy because they love the thing, which is what we lost.
But the problem is, like, the reason we bring up this kind of stuff is it connects at the institutional level to much larger layers of the financial financing of the entire world, right? Because institutions buy this artwork and they then loan against it, build debt against it. And so if you're Bank of America and they all have corporate art departments that have hundreds of millions of dollars worth of artwork that's in free ports, right? So they have invested, the Saudis, the Qataris, they've all invested in this kind of stuff in the last 25 years. And the market is all based on faith, which is now in the process of collapsing. Right. And so it has a much larger reverberation effect. If faith is lost at the level of the institutional collection, like you're talking about.
But does it have that large? Does it have that
they
larger
don't buy
effect in that bracket though? It's only in
they don't buy $100,000 pieces of art, right? They only want stuff that's tried and true in terms of the art market, right? And so it's about whether or not they realize it, Eamon, right? That's what happened. That was the collapse in 2008, right? When you realize what you've based everything on has collapsed, then you collapse as well.
I think it stopped a while ago as well. Like, I think they've sort of made it look good for a lot longer. I think it's been on its knees for a while. I mean, that last sale at Sotheby's just now in New York, like, it was like tumbleweed. No one was there. It was so boring. It was like people were waiting for the bus. Like, the big collectors didn't even turn up. Like, look at who wasn't in the room. They're done.
Well, that's an upcoming story for next week, is about the Giacometti bust, right? Like, we'll save that. But that's like, it was a huge deflation of the market, right? It's just signal. If something as big as a Giacometti cannot sell, then then
you're in trouble.
Smaller in the pantheon of the greats, right? If a Giacometti is not going to sell, you're going to have problems with a Basquiat at some point. It's just the nature of how the market works.
But I think going back to what Stuart was saying earlier, though, it's kind of, maybe that's not a bad thing. That the focus can be realigned.
100%. I think, right, we always talk about these two different things. The art market is this very high tranche, and what most artists are dealing with is a much lower tranche that's modeling itself on what's happening there, right? And so, like, artists are always aspiring to raise their prices. That's not the key to success. The key to success is to find your market and to sell to them at the level they're going to buy, right? Don't be aspirational with your pricing. Sell your shit, and then your prices will go up. That's the basics of business anywhere.
Or just give it away if nobody's willing to buy it.
And I do that too, right? That's a whole other way of doing stuff. People don't remember, but a whole part of the web was built based on freemiums. Remember, you'd get free stuff with the idea that you would eventually transition over from free to paid. That's a viable model for some people. So there's other ways of doing all of this, but the art market is involving people with a lot of money. And if they're panicking, if they're feeling discontent, we will all feel that at some point.
Oh dear, oh dear. It's a hot-headed topic, and I don't much like it, but that's
No, it's
okay.
horrible. I hate talking about it. It's mucky, isn't it?
And that's why the next story completely shifts gears.
Thank God. Moving swiftly into our next story, where we
So
are
let me
talking
ask you
about.
this.
Hold on now.
Let me-
Hold on now. I feel
What are we
like
doing?
being the Irish person in the room and
What's that
having
got
the
to do with
Irish
it?
and having the Irish
Well,
background. Excuse me, it has everything to do with it, Stuart.
Oh, does
We
it?
have a
Okay,
history
sorry.
of
I'll
in
stand
his
down.
mind,
potatoes.
it does.
We are the Spud generation.
You're the Spud generation.
We
Okay.
are the Spud generation. Well, I'm not. Thank God.
No, I don't think you had a potato famine, did you?
No, I didn't. Not personally,
No.
no. But my
Well,
ancestors
thank
did, and
goodness.
by God, did
Okay.
they talk about it?
I bet they
And
did.
take pictures, apparently.
We
Did they?
And here's the most fabulous photograph that ever did cross the face of the earth. One that is truly representative of the true culture of Ireland.
So if you had a million euros just lying around, nothing better to do.
Yeah.
Right? Is a picture of a potato looking like it's shot like the moon what
Love
you're
it.
going to sink $1 million into? It's always, I brought this up because I'm always amazed what people will do with money. I never had £1 million to spend on anything, right? Like,
Love it.
so I bring this kind of stuff up to see what people's reactions are.
I
Go,
really
Stuart,
hope
go.
I'll tell you, I really hope that they sunk their last penny into it and they spent everything they had on it. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I mean, what a badass thing to do. If I could spend £1 million on a picture of a potato, I mean, yeah, of course, it's obscene in a way. There's a million much more important things we could be doing with our money. But the fact, just the mere fact that a photograph of a flipping potato has traded for $1 million is brilliant. When these high lots are falling at all, you know, someone's mad enough to do it. I think it's, and also someone's mad enough to take a picture of it in the first place.
It's one of three. This is the crazy thing about this.
There's more.
The guy who took the picture has one copy. He donated a copy to a museum in Serbia. What? Serbia? I have no idea. And then he was approached by someone who wanted a third copy. And he's like, I'll sell it to you for £1 million or €1 million. And
wow.
It's bloody fabulous. So I wanted over the mantelpiece. I want a nice spotlight on it just to accentuate that beautifully lit chiaroscuro that's happening there. It's just stunning. Love it.
To me, it just transports like Warhol into the modern photographic age, right? Because everything's about pictures today. And it's the same idea. Like, take a picture of a damn potato yourself. This is not black, front lighting, good to go. Like, this is not hard, right? And it's just, the guy could have done it himself. But really, and so like this is where I think non-artists, like they always are scratching their head at this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but even artists are like, whoa, this is like the chutzpah here is fantastic. But this is like a once funny. You can't do this twice. Well, I guess if you're Catalan, you'll find a way to do it. For sure.
I was gonna just say it. I was gonna drop it, but you got before me. It's like, well, if you can put a banana with some duct tape on a wall, then you can surely put a potato in front of a camera.
I like it. Is it wrong to really like it? I think it's brilliant. I'm a fan of the potato. I've got to say, I like. Nothing wrong with a good potato, is there?
No.
As I
Kevin
always say, it's just
is the artist, by the way. Kevin Abosh, you are a legend, a living legend.
And did the person and the person who bought it, presumably they own like the longest potato growing dynasty of the world, and they're really into potatoes or something.
It's not a Coen Brothers film where there's a picture of the potato behind the potato head. It's not. I don't think so.
I want to know who it was. Like, who does that?
As always, I say it's a sign of the collapse of civilization. There you go, folks.
It's fantastic. We love it.
Where do you go from there?
We don't. That's it. We've peaked.
We go to a break where Eamon talks about Nua Collective.
I'm getting all the introductions today.
Go on, Eamon.
Okay. Well, we'll be right back after these messages. Nua Collective, an arts community collective with art artists and art publications with fresh work, news and updates added weekly to our online collection at nuacollective.com. Here you'll also find our Nua journal featuring articles and podcasts, which are also available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok and like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss us out on Spilling the RT in our weekly roundups every Monday. Yeah, there you go, baby. Boom, boom, boom. What are they to do, Josh? What are they to do? Come on, do it.
Smash it. Like, share, subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Tell us who you think Eamon should have on next as a guest.
Eamon?
What should we do? Yeah, you.
We,
Eamon does our guest relations. Eamon's our guest relations.
God knows what else Eamon does. Yes, do email us.
Buy some swag.
Oh, buy some swag. Get that swag in there, guys. We need the swag. But we give him a reminder of the swag. Look at this swag, Stuart. You're a good man for swag.
I love a bit of swag.
Love a bit of swag.
But that's nice swag, isn't it?
So we've coined this term. And maybe we should trademark it too, Stuart.
Yeah.
You should trademark everything.
We've trademarked. We will trademark this term. It's called FOMA, the fear of missing art.
Wow!
Just why not?
That's clever. I see what you've done.
That's ours. That's ours.
That's
yeah.
ours.
Well, I won't say it to anyone.
No, we want you to say it. Just
no. Well, I'm allowed. Oh, okay.
Than we have had.
Okay, I'll tell everyone.
We'll give it to you. You can have it. You can have it.
Thank
you. You're welcome. So there is our swag. Also, if you do want to be a guest, sorry, we were slightly overarching that, but if you do want to be a guest, please contact us at hello@newacollective.com or DM us on any of the socials that we are on, which is pretty much everything except for Blue Sky, which I yet to get onto. But yeah, cool. Bring it.
Onwards.
Off we go.
Upwards we go into the next segment. Where are we going to?
Back to New York, to Times Square.
Oh,
For those that don't know, Times Square is literally down the street from MoMA in New York. So it's a cool kind of juxtaposition because you have all these tourists that are there in Times Square just to be in Times Square, right? All the signs, all the shopping, all the just tourist craziness. And then literally 2 blocks away is MoMA, which is like a high art cathedral in New York City. So what did they put in the middle of Times Square? A 12-foot high statue, bronze statue of a Black woman, right? And the whole idea here is it's larger than life. The gentleman who created this, Thomas J. Price, calls this grounded in the stars. And it's generated a lot of controversy, but also interestingly, a lot of like really supportive comments from people who are actually Black and African American, right? Because this is about like, what does representation look like? What does it look like in the public space? And in particular, if we're talking about identity, well, like if you're thinking about, well, what would the ideal Black woman look like, right? What would the ideal X look like of any kind? If you're a person who's like creating the commission for this, that actually puts you in a bit of a quandary, right? Like, what is it the image should look like that you're creating? And what this gentleman created was a 12-foot, right? She's plump, let's say. She is like a real woman. That's the basic comment that keeps coming up is it's a real person that's there, that's bigger than life and towering over Times Square. And obviously there was pushback here because it's a woman of color in the first place, but it also generated controversy because, well, what should that representation look like? I thought it was pretty cool myself.
I think it's stunning, and I think it's like it's beautiful, and I think she stands there in like great groundedness, and in like obviously in the title it suggests that she's grounded in the stars, and I think she like as in being in Times Square where it's surrounded by Broadway stars and surrounded by world-class performance, and she's standing there owning her space. Yes, I'm here for it.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful in so many ways because it's interesting to think that we can put something like this in public space and it can still shock and provoke. I think what's interesting is the debate that's come around it and actually the prejudice that it's brought up to the surface in the viewer. Yeah. I think that's fascinating. You know, and this idea of what art should be or shouldn't be and what should be included or shouldn't be included and how and what it has to do, you know, that it should have the idealized Black female woman, you know, the fact that she's a bit plump, she's overweight, that's not allowed, or it's just insane that, you know, we're in the 21st century and we're finding this shocking. And what's shocking is the fact that not we, but some people are finding this shocking.
Yeah,
that's what's interesting. And it's sad that it's not going to stay there for very long. It's going in about a month, isn't it? It's
set up as a temporary.
I think,
it's a temporary install just because of the nature of where it's at. But it'll go to someplace else, and he'll get more commissions and that kind of thing because that's how that kind of stuff tends to build. What I found interesting was that the actual people who are going there to see it, nobody's deriding it whatsoever, right? Like people are taking selfies with it, and not just African American or Black people. Like it's to me, it's reminiscent of the little girl statue that was placed near the Bull in Wall Street in Lower Manhattan, right? Which is is a couple miles from where this is, but it's the same kind of thing. It's the idea that public space doesn't just belong to the people who own it, because it's public space, right? And so the public gets to have a reaction to it, can be provoked by it, but also should see itself in that space in different kinds of ways, particularly in a place like Times Square, where it's like the height of commercialism. The joke of Times Square is you go to Times Square and there's people dressed up in like Marvel characters. And if you even stop for a second so they think you're going to take a picture, they want to charge you for the presence of taking that picture with them, right? And it's insane ways of like raking tourists for money. And so to have something like this that's designed deliberately to be sending a message, but also to be a free selfie station, if you will. Like, I'm against the whole selfie thing because you're not really seeing the art. But the purpose of something like this is to have the selfie taken. It is for the picture afterwards. It will proliferate because of those images, even though it was a temporary install, right?
Yeah.
Like in that case, the power of the image is important. So it's like, even by putting it out there, for that to even happen at all, there will be a wake that is created because of that. And that will allow for more opportunities in the future. That's the only way that this stuff actually gets done. It doesn't get done by having, as we were talking about, a museum that tries to cover anything and everything. Right? Like, that doesn't work either. You have to have targeted strategies that allow for things in the real world. And then you see what happens next. At least you tried. That's what I always say. At least you tried to make it happen.
Well, I think she looks like a superhero. So,
she does.
I think she looks like a superhero. I think that's where it's at. That's where it's at.
One of the comments from someone was like, I want her to actually be off the ground. Like, the only complaint wasn't about the pose. It wasn't about like the look. It was, if she's actually in the stars, I want her then 12 feet up as well as 12 feet high. And that would really be, if we're talking about like anyone can be a superhero. Right.
But
that would be the
I think what's great is that she's not in the stars, because she's grounded there, and she's like, she's owning her own space and owning Times Square, because she's got that massive presence in the space. And I feel like that is her being the superhero.
Yeah, and she's also 12 foot tall. She's been taken from everyday life, the normal, and now she's this giant towering figure. It's incredible to be able to do that, to elevate real life, to be that powerful, because it is powerful, isn't it? I mean, I wish I could see it in real life. I mean, yeah, it's great. I love the fact that artists are still able to disrupt and challenge like that.
Yeah,
that's exciting.
It is, but
more of that.
But it's unfortunate that it is, for some reason, that is appearing as something that is controversial.
Oh, in the U.S., that would be. I mean, how many statues of women have been beheaded in the last couple of years? Right.
Of course, like, we've mentioned a few.
What I can say is this one probably won't end up being beheaded because it's in Times Square, which is like 24/7 cameras and all that kind of thing, right? But yeah, public art still produces reactions, strong reactions in people, particularly reactionary kinds of people.
Yeah. Well, that tea is spilled. Unless you want to bring up some chump turds, but that's all good.
No. Moving on.
Let's
but
go there.
Speaking of turds,
go on. What's the turd?
Well, so there's this mold. It's a family of molds that are called asparagus. And so off to Denmark we go. I'm sorry, Danes. We keep beating up on you. It's not my fault. What do you expect?
It's their fault, really, isn't it?
Well, given their history of colonialism, it is their fault. Nonetheless, so 12 of their museums are literally under attack from this mold. And this is the kind of mold that if you inhale it yourself, you can get sick, you can die from it. You got to go through like a regime of various kinds of antifungal medicines. It's just a horrific thing. But it also is like destroying the cultural heritage of the Netherlands. Now, one could argue how much of that heritage is actually Danish versus other people's is a whole other discussion. But nonetheless, they're having a great deal of difficulty maintaining the facilities. They're literally in the process of collapsing. This isn't like in the UK with a failure of money. They're putting tremendous amounts of money into this, but the natural world will always win, right? And here's an example of it.
Wow, this is serious. I mean, so I had a mold problem in the studio. Not this mold, but I did have toxic mold, and I was so ill, I couldn't do any work for about 2 years. It was terrible. It got in my lungs, everything.
Oh my God.
I didn't even know it was there till I moved a big painting out of the way. Yeah. So this is serious. I mean, not only is it destroying these artifacts, but it's obviously a health concern. You can't have people around this stuff, so it's going to be putting these works sort of out of the public eye, which is a real shame. But what's terrifying about mold, which I found out, is it's so airborne and invisible. You don't even know where the blooming stuff is, where the spores are. So they can check the other end of your studio, and they can find it, even if you can't see it. Yeah. So this has probably been living there rent-free for quite a while. And I have no idea how you get rid of it. I don't know how you get rid of it. I mean, if it's on a wall, you can kill the wall, but you can't. What are you going to do to a valuable oil painting that's hundreds and hundreds of years old?
Well, the problem is this is a family of molds, right? And so there's a couple of different hundreds. You might have had black mold. That's a common thing that people have in studios and houses. And that's the stuff, if you breathe, right, you have real problems with. This is stuff that is basically, they can't find a way to stop it. That's really the issue. It's that and if like you would inhale it, they have treatments for it in the body. But in terms of how it's spreading throughout, like frames, onto canvases, onto basically anything that it touches, including like sculpture, it can literally just like take over with this like white film. And they haven't been found a way to really to stop it or arrest it. So you saw someone there in a full like Operation Monkeypox, right? Like I've got my whole coverage. They're doing that because like basically the whole room, they haven't figured out a way to stop what's going on in that room. It's pretty crazy.
It's really sad.
Well, I mean, or it's an appreciation of time and the fact that nothing lasts. And guess what? Make your peace with mortality, right? I mean, I honestly see that as to me, that's a more interesting statement about an institution like the museum than what's actually in the museum.
Well, it's nature. Nature always wins.
It does.
But it's also about mortality and how humans fear mortality in all different kinds of ways, right? And so an actual acknowledgement that no matter what we try to save and preserve will be lost, I think that would scare the literal shit out of many humans. I think if they actually contemplate that for a while, they will lose their minds.
Yeah, because you're sold on the immortality of these objects, that they're going to outlive us, that the artwork's immortal, and then actually if they're not, I mean, but the climate crisis is what's ticking. Yes. None of it's going to be here. It's all going to be underwater.
Dear. The Norman 4 billion years will last, so that's
in
fine.
4 billion years we're going to have a very different climate crisis when our entire solar system changes because the heat engine at its center has decided to expand, right? Like that's just going to happen.
It will be changing.
I won't be around, so we
won't be around to see it. But I mean, like we've seen in past episodes where we've looked at mosaics that have been several feet underwater. We've looked at the Norman tapestries last week, which will probably outlive us all for good or for worse. And so there's plenty of art out there that will sustain it. But like I suppose it's just a case of like some of them just need to be archived in a different way.
Well, if you lock them in something like lucite, right? If you seal it inside of resin, because that's the stuff that's lasted the longest, right? We have natural resins that give us stuff from literally hundreds of millions of years
in the
ago.
shed.
Have you? Oh, we'll be fine then.
Perfect. Yeah, come take some of mine. I've got loads.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it'd be great. Sweet. I can put it in a bottle.
Brilliant. We'll be fine then.
Brilliant.
Cool.
Yeah, that tea is spilled. That tea is well
and
spilled. So we're gonna move now to talk about you, Stuart.
Okay,
Stuart, just like as like a quick like one-liner for those for the few that may not
don't know you.
Give us like a one-liner. Who are you?
Well, I'm an artist. I'd like to think that I'm quite conceptual in what I do. And you may mistake me for someone that makes and sells paint, which would probably be the wrong thing to think I am.
Fleetwood?
So, 3 words. Artist. Can I just be an artist? It's easier.
Is that how you think of yourself?
Yeah.
And that's all we care about.
All right.
That's all we care about.
I'm an artist.
Good.
But you're an artist. Now, here's my question. Since you are legally Anish Kapoor, did they not sue the wrong person in French court? Or did they sue Culture Hustle?
Oh, now you're getting into it. No, they didn't. They didn't sue the wrong person because I am legally Anish Kapoor, but the Stuart Semple thing you can still go for. And actually, annoyingly, it looks like they started this whole fandango in 2019, long before I was Kapoor. So,
oh no, Oh, that's so annoying.
But that's also interesting to know how long it takes to get through the French court system, right? It took them, because you don't even know.
I'll tell you what's interesting is that they can be doing it for nearly, 5 years without me even knowing about it.
That's what I'm saying.
That's crazy. How on earth did they pull that one off? It could be happening to anyone right now.
We
just get a knock on the door. Yeah. I mean, they're probably
serve you.
Well, yeah,
they would have to give you papers of some kind.
Well, they did. They did. That's exactly what happened. They knocked on the door of my accountant, and he said, "Oh, Stuart, someone's come over with a scary-looking letter. Do you want to come and get it?" I said, "Yeah, I'll come and get it." And I opened it, and it was all in French because it was from the Eve Klein estate. And then I found a translation in it. So yeah, they served the papers in the end. They knew where I was. So why didn't they contact me before? It's very, very weird. Very weird.
Spill the actual tea. Tell us the real story.
What, the real story?
Yeah.
The real story is there was a guy called Yves Klein who was an absolutely flipping awesome conceptual avant-garde artist who made a brilliant blue paint that was really matte and really powdery and really beautiful that I absolutely adored. And I love loads of his work on the void and nothingness and everything else. I'm into all that sort of thing. And I spent 10 years of my life trying to make a paint a bit like his so that artists all around the world could play and use and express themselves with that matte surface because he patented his formula. So I made this stuff called I'm not allowed to say the word.
Easy Blue.
And shared it with some artists. And in the background, his son, who owns, and I'll spill the tea, an offshore company in Gibraltar that holds the trademark, which is a tax haven, by the way, or nearly one, didn't like the fact I did this without giving them money. And has had a team of lawyers take me to court, and they won. So the story is I'm not allowed to have the word Klein on that box anymore, or refer to him, which I think is really sad because he inspired me, and I like to give credit to those who've inspired and the legacy, and I think artists build on the past, and
completely.
So that's really sad. I mean, I wasn't.
The flip side is, as I pointed out last week, is that the bottles that are marked EK are now collector's items.
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah, quite
there
possibly.
You go. Well, now that he said it, it is. So
well, it must be real. Yeah. So it's a nightmare. It's a flipping nightmare. So if anybody's listening and you want to help me, I've got a GoFundMe and there's a petition going around.
We'll put that down below.
It'd mean a lot if you think it's important, then do that.
Yeah,
it would help me.
The link for that is in the bio. Please do support that. Give him some moolah so he can get over the French.
I've got to fight it. I've got to fight it. I can't let them get away with it.
Well, kudos to you for actually doing that. Like that's incredible that you are pursuing it.
It's quite scary.
At the very least, don't you have an opening there in terms of not having been contacted until there was an actual resolution?
Well, actually, weirdly, that doesn't matter for the appeal. In France. Yeah, it's not like, they didn't tell me, please, can I appeal? I can appeal anyway. So that's not the issue. The issue is, for the appeal, is actually, did I encroach on his trademark or not? And the trademark is Yves Klein, 2 words. And I never used Yves Klein on my box. And that box is a parody and it's satire and it's based on Calvin Klein's CK1 perfume. And in law, thank goodness, artists like us are allowed to be satirical, critical and humorous and parody things. And that's hopefully my get out of jail free card.
You have all the words. You have all the words.
I've got the words. Yes.
This is why it's good to be an artist that also produces things, because you can say ultimately at the end of the day, that packaging was intended to be a parodic statement altogether. Right?
Well, it is, and I'm not passing it off as something he made. That's what they're saying. Oh, people might be confused that Yves Klein made it. It's got my flipping signature in massive letters on the front. Who do you think made it? He was flipping dead. He's not in my studio making any paint. Nobody bought this from me thinking they were buying it from him. I mean, it's bonkers.
I think what's really upsetting, though, is that you are so influenced by him, and that you are literally honoring him by doing this, and then as a result, you got bit in the ass.
But this is why they tell you no good deed goes unpunished, right? Right? Now you've learned.
I've learned.
You have learned.
I'll behave myself from now on.
Is there anything you'd like to say, Stuart? that you're allowed to say.
I regret it. I wish I hadn't done it. I'm very sorry.
Okay.
I don't know.
And where can we buy these paints?
Go to cultshustle.com and you can get it, but it will be scribbled out.
Perfect.
Till I hopefully win.
Yeah, we're buying them now because they're probably worth about 200 grand a week.
So
they're worth more than a potato.
Let's move on because you are an artist, right? Let's talk about your work as an artist. Tell us about what you do.
At the moment, in about 2 weeks, I'm unveiling a big piece of public art I've made for Jersey Zoo, Durrell Wildlife Conservation Trust, because there was a dude called Gerald Durrell who was absolutely amazing. I love him. He saved all the little creatures, the overlooked ones, the ones that we didn't really pay much attention to, and he saved entire ecosystems, and he's amazing. And the work they do at the zoo is really good and important for conservation of species in the planet. So we wanted to celebrate Jerry's 100th birthday. So I've made an installation of 5,000 3D printed wildflowers based on Jerry's favourite wildflowers. Out of bioresin, so it's quite a game changer. It's made out of sugars, plant-based sugars, and they'll live outside and they glow in the dark. And I've invented new colours for all of them. And it will be there for 3 months. And if you want to buy one, you can buy one from the zoo, and you get a free ticket to go to the zoo if you buy one. And then after the installation, we send it to your house, and then you can live with the flower that I made.
Oh my goodness, that's so cool.
So that's what I've done. That's what I've been up to. So I'm excited about that.
We have a little animation that you've created for this. Hold on, I just roll this a little bit. And this is showcasing all of the flowers that you've
this
produced.
is a kind of render we did at the start to show what it probably will look like.
Okay.
So obviously I'm going out there in about a week to plant them all. So it'll be something like this, which is quite exciting, really. Amazing. It's been a lot of work. It's really hard.
So when is this opening in Jersey?
2 weeks. The 6th of June.
Great. If you're in Jersey, go to Jersey Zoo. It's really cool.
There it is glowing there. Look.
And there, oh, wow.
You'll see it glow
What's the shelf stability of this bioresin? How long will it last?
Oh, well, it will last forever in your house, but you can compost it, but it needs industrial composting because it needs heat as well, because we didn't want it to die on your windowsill or whatever, or while it was outside.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And is it protected from mold, particularly Danish mold?
No, I didn't get the memo about the Danish mold.
Okay. It's a bioresin. I don't know that the mold will be able to grow on it. Resins tend to be anaerobic, and so mold needs oxygen and water, right? That's
our in-house scientists. Our in-house scientists.
Oh, nice, Josh.
Hey, I've done many different things. Anyhow, this is a really cool install.
So
it's been fun.
This is really cool, and if you're in Jersey, go catch it. We also have this beautiful yellow color. Yours. Just describe what this is about.
Yeah, because I know you're into the sciencey, geeky color stuff. So basically, a bunch of scientists in the US fired laser into someone's eyeball, into their retina, and they stimulated. We got these 3 cones in there. We got small, medium, and long range cones in the back of our eye. And what they did was they stimulated just the medium one, not the other 2. And people had this weird kind of hallucinatory experience. They saw a sort of green color that they'd never seen before by firing this laser. So I heard this news, very excited. Brand new color is what they said it was. I'm not sure that's quite true. I think it was an experience.
I don't think so.
But anyway, I ran into the lab. I was so excited. They've invented a new color. So I made my own version, which is called YOLO. Theirs is called OLO. And it was really fun. And it is weird. It's like this weird kind of glowy teal stuff. It's quite strange.
It is, but I actually appreciated more your name for it than any of the other stuff. Because when I saw the images of what they were supposedly stimulating in people's eyes, I was like, I'm pretty sure I've seen this color before. But then you put it out as a YOLO Pantone, and I was like, oh, that's wonderful.
It's funny. Funny. It was fun to make it though. It was quite cool. I enjoyed it.
It's cool. And we have the paint version of it, I'm assuming.
There it is,
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, that's the actual paint, And what's interesting is with paint, we can do things that we can't do on a screen. You know, I can mix different things in there, make light bounce off it. I can do more optical stuff. So, it's not far off the actual experience of YOLO. And the scientists have been super cool. They're actually really nice. And they're painting with my paint and stuff. We sent them a load and they're actually really nice. So that's been we made a friend out of that. That was good.
Imagine that. Scientists that want to share knowledge and get off on how it gets changed and moved, as opposed to an estate suing people for doing the same thing.
Behave, Josh.
Cool.
Behave, Josh.
But how cool could it be if we all collaborated with one another and stopped competing and shared and grew together?
Imagine that. Yeah. Imagine that.
Wow,
we love the creativity. We love the collaborations. Love it.
Absolutely.
Speaking of sharing knowledge and sharing experiences, you have written a book.
Yeah, did a book, spent a year on it. It's everything I've learned along the way. So you've got 25 years of all my hijinks in here. But it's basically, you can't afford to go to art school anymore. It's a bit of a scam anyway. This is 3 years of art school in one book. And it's really been helping people. People have been writing in almost every day saying it's really inspiring them. They're making great work. There's exercises in there to do, art history, my biography, and it's all sort of woven together. And I've tried to make it easy to understand. So like anyone can get this thing and get their head around some of the big conceptual ideas that are kind of hard. You know, they've been kept elite. They've been kept out of our grasp. I'm trying to not dumb them down, but just make them accessible. And that's what it does in a practical way.
Cool.
No, it does. Actually, I was considering using it for one of my classes, right? Because one of the things, because when you're teaching art to students, you can teach it at a really practical level, right? But you also have to teach things at a conceptual level so they understand, like, not just how it fits in at the art history level, but the actual real world beyond it. That's the hardest thing, right? People always think that making art is the hard thing. That's not the hard part about being an artist. Right? Anyone can call themselves an artist because they make art, but actually being able to sustain yourself as a professional is a very different series of conversations you have to have with yourself more than anything else. What you are, what you will or will not do, what you are or are not willing to make happen, right? And like what you're willing to put into it to make things happen. And I think students have to have those conversations with themselves as early as possible because they won't be long-term artists otherwise.
I think from the conceptual point of view as well, and trying to understand that, I think especially for younger undergrad students who are going through a fine art undergrad or something like that, where they're doing a really conceptual based program, where it's very difficult to try and unpack that when you have never taught like that, or just to understand what it is to be a conceptual artist. And I think that, like, if you've those sort of tools in there, that's kind of great.
Yeah, I mean, it's about ideas, and then it's about how they impact the world, how they meet reality, you know, outside the studio, outside your practice, real human beings, how you connect. That's what it's about.
Deadly.
Well,
get that into your cart, folks. Get that into your cart. Make art or die trying. Is that on culturehustle.ie too, or .com?
No, everywhere you normally get your books. So your Amazon, Waterstones, Barnes and Noble, as in the Tate shop, places like that.
Brilliant. Cool. So get on that, folks. We'll put a few links of that into our bio as well so that people can get direct links to that, and hopefully you'll go and buy it and learn all about art. And remember that it's open and there for everyone.
Yeah.
We love that. We love that.
It should be.
Well,
we say that all the time around here. Art is for everyone.
Art is for everyone. It is.
Right? That's the whole point of it. That's what makes it different.
That's what makes us different. Well, Stuart, you've been an absolute dream of a guest, and we've been so thrilled and delighted and honored to have you on the Spill the Art show. So thank you.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Oh,
it was lovely to hang out with you both.
We might get you on again to talk about something even more interesting.
Do it.
And to get an update on all things Stuart Semple. So thank you.
I'm sure you'll get into trouble again at some point. And so
No, don't wish it, Josh. I need a peaceful year.
Peaceful year. We're sending you all the peaceful vibes. Josh, you go and have yourself a tumultuous year if you so wish. Poor Stuart, leave him alone, the poor pet.
I just think if hijinks aren't your game, then hijinks aren't your game.
That's I mean, I've got to accept at some point I might get in trouble for the hijinks.
If you bring it on yourself, then you just make that part of the next hijink. That's all.
Yeah.
He's such a stirrer, Stuart. He's such a stirrer. Yeah, he loves stirring that tea. He really does. But
he's
unfortunately,
a tea stirrer.
That's all the time we have left for today's tea spilling. Remember to join us on all our social channels at Newark Collective Art. Follow Stuart on at Stuart Semple and at Culture Hustle. And wherever you get your social channels from, make sure that you like, share, subscribe, all of that. Email us at hello@newarkcollective.com and visit us at www.newarkcollective.com too. I actually also forgot to say, Josh, in my kind
Oh
of
yeah.
like spiel earlier on, is that we do have our next digital show from Newark Collective that is coming out in just
Oh
2
yes.
weeks. Yes, and
That's
it's
right.
called Newark Anecdotes, and they're just little reflections from our artists before we do our next big show.
It's true.
Little notes to what they're doing in their own practice.
Yep.
So do
Little
have a
preview.
look at that. A little preview. Oh, yeah.
I've got a piece from a photo book I'm working on that'll be part of that. That's part of
Ooh,
a much larger 3-year project.
a
So
bigger
every
project.
artist in the
Fantastic.
collective, every artist in the collective is pulling from whatever they're currently working on, and
Mm.
that's what we're putting together for this. So it's a little bit of insight into where we're
Yeah.
at.
Just a little note, just a little note. So yeah, stay tuned for that. That will be on in 2 weeks, and you will see all the details on that again on our social channels and in the link below. So that's all we have time for today, as I've said already 100 times. Until next week, love art, support artists. See you then. Bye. Until next week of Spill the RT. Love art and support artists. Bye.